best we can. So we'll have a walkthrough here today, kind of do a good job of taking care of our bodies. With the night game off of this too, it's a little bit of an extended time here at the end. So as far as the injury thing, Mike Daniels still will not be, he won't be participating also. And, we had one yesterday too that was not out there, Amani. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. He was not out of practice. He wouldn't be out there today either. So other than that, try to get the best we can. All kind of the phases that we have in right now, we'll continue with the install and do all that stuff as we go forward and, just get ready to go. We know we've got a huge challenge. It's a great game. Everything in front of us as far as that's concerned. But right now it's just task at hand for the day. Do the best we can to get ready, put the red area in today and kind of push forward from that aspect of it. So that's all I got for announcements. Anybody else?
Now, every game in a 16-game season is a big game, but when you look at like off a bye, division leader, Green Bay, Lambeau, Monday Night Football, do you put maybe a little more emphasis on this being that much bigger of a game?
No, it's really just that next game is always the biggest game. I think certainly from that standpoint, the only thing that does really affect anything along those lines, but the next game is always the biggest game, is just when in the season is it. I think as the season goes and the farther you get along in the season, then, from that aspect of it, those games are always critical, from that point. But they're all important. We only have so many of them. That's just kind of the way the NFL works. And really for us, it's staying within the moment. I think that's the biggest thing.
Special teams-wise, you guys have been pretty good coverage-wise. Just how important is Jalen Reese-Maven in that regard? Leads the league in special teams tackles.
Yep.
Made a few of them last week. Just how key has he been?
Yeah, he's been really, really good, in those coverage phases, in those units. He's playing big, he's playing fast, he's playing strong. Probably anticipate some different return looks for him, as we push forward. So he knows he's got his work cut out in front of him. But as far as, his production so far, he's really been critical for us in those situations.
You've got so many defensive tackles, or one position specifically that's kind of banged up, and you're working through that in a practice. How difficult is that to I guess, manage through a given practice week?
Yeah, I would say any position where I would categorize it more in big guys. We kind of call them big guys, semis, and skill. Just kind of those body types. When you start running out of those body types and you're trying to, obviously prepare for your own game plan on whatever particular side of the ball, or also give the look for the other side of the ball. That's where you got to be a little bit conscious in some of those things. So I think when you have a depleted group or a group that's not maybe practicing as much because of those situations, you can also alter practice a little bit and kind of, just push towards the guys that are out there and make sure that they're getting those reps, whether it's more, inside work, more team work, more 7-on-7 type work, things like that to kind of compensate for those situations. But it really happens in any particular of the three areas where the body types just run short.
A bunch of quarterbacks this year that are really good at extending plays. Just in terms of your secondary, I'm curious if you coach it differently. Like this guy likes to go deep, this guy likes to run, or do you just cover? No.
You want to be specific with what they do when those plays get extended, and really who those players are from that aspect of it. I think in those situations, whether the particular quarterback has maybe a receiver or a skill player that he looks for, whether those guys tend to work towards the sideline that he's going to, whether they work away, whether the guys to the sideline go vertical and the guys from the opposite sideline, from whichever way he moves, they come across. There's just different kind of patterns that teams, can use in those situations. A lot of it is a lot more choreographed or orchestrated in those situations than kind of probably what it appears. So you really want to study that, take a look at it so that everybody kind of knows where the dangers lie or where their better players are.
How confusing is it for coaches right now? I think 20 out of the last 21 challenges of pass interference have not been overturned, where
Sure.
It seems like some of them should. I mean, does that play into whether you're going to challenge or not? Because it seems like it's almost ridiculous.
Yeah. I think for us, we just try to do the best we can to go with the probability of what we think, in those situations. I'd say for the most part, I think just, what's being called on the field is what's being called. And I think we just got to move forward with that. And unless we see something that we really think is, a good opportunity for us to challenge it or take a look at it, we'll do that. But really for the most part, I think what's being on the field called is what's called.
Challenging them then, because the probability is very high that they
Yeah, it doesn't mean do or don't. Just means I think that's where it is.
I know you're constantly studying trends and trying to stay ahead of the curve. One thing you guys have done on defense a lot this year is just rush three-man. You're not blitz and a lot, you're rushing with the 3. Is there something to that? Are you trying to stay ahead of a schematic curve here? I'm trying to ask a question in a
Sure.
way to get an answer.
Yeah, right. Check. Got it. I think with the the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6 plus type of rush situations, all of those depend on the particular week of the game plan. I think there's definitely opportunities where 3-man rushes are good, important. Sometimes it has to do with the danger of the skilled players that are also out there on the field and how you feel that looks from a overall matchup or situational standpoint. So those are kind of some of the things that go or tie into those factors there. And it's really kind of a, just philosophy of those particular situations. It really depends on down and distance, field position, point in the game, what you're trying to defend in those situations. And also, what are the individual matchups up front? How do you feel about those? Quarterback movement comes into play with those situations too, so you try to really analyze all that and figure out, okay, hey, when is this a good idea and when is it not?
I know your general philosophy, and a lot of coaches' philosophy is stop the run first. Can you ever see a point where this league becomes stop the pass first, just given the trend toward passing and the efficiency of the passing games these days?
I think it really depends on what you think you need to do to win that game. And I would say that there certainly are games where it's like, hey, they might run the ball here a little bit, and we're gonna have to do what we can to stop it, but we're not. We need to commit to these areas, and we need to commit to these situations and stop those because that's how they're winning. I think that's really what you try to identify first. What does it take for them to win, and then how do you combat that, and then how do you handle when it moves in a different direction.
Man, I want to ask about Trey Flowers.
Yep.
What's been your assessment of him the first quarter of the season, and how important he can be Monday night?
Sure. I think, for me, Trey, obviously at this point in the year, I think he's working hard like all those guys. He's obviously pushing through, his offseason last year and trying to do everything he can to just make sure he's working back towards where he wants to be as a player. Everybody starts over, so certainly, we're all looking at those guys just as far as improving. I would say he's definitely improving as the season's going through. He does a lot of things, I would say, that are maybe not necessarily on the stat list, but you can see are getting closer and closer, which is good. But I think all those guys are working really hard. Like Romeo Okwara is the same way. He works extremely hard in those situations and competes, at a high level. And Devon Kennard. So, we're just going to look for that improvement, hopefully, to keep going up with all those guys. And we'll see what happens on Monday. We'll see what happens next Sunday. But hopefully they just kind of keep trending in that direction.
Yes. Is Hockenson still in concussion protocol, or is he out of that? And did everything?
You know what? It's a good question. He'll be at practice and everything like that. So, he was at practice yesterday, completed another day, and then they check with the doctors. And I think we got maybe one more day of that. And then, we'll see where we go from there. But practicing, doing all those things. But, the doctors, whatever the priority is, they practice and they check them, they practice and they check them, and go through until they're all cleared.
So the anticipation would be that you expect to be available Monday night this game?
I mean, yeah, we'll just keep pushing forward with all that, but, we're just, hopefully we'll take it day by day. It's so unpredictable, I would say, with those situations. That's why it's hard to comment on them, really, but, I let the doctors kind of handle those situations up there. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great. Yep. Good to see everybody.